Hello, TiAna, it's me, your wise and sagacious older brother. Is sagacious a word? Sagacious? Sagely? But anyway, it doesn't matter. You should just listen to me because I say so. I'm your older brother, that's how it goes, right? I have some advice for you. Don't ever go to college, ever. Alright, I suppose that was a little misleading. Let's rephrase that. Don't go to college until you're ready. Or as they call it here in the UK, uni. Or university. I've got an errand to run today, a specific one that nobody that's in college ever does ever, unless you're in the grad program or you're getting your PhD. So you're gonna come with me to the University of Stirling campus, and I'm gonna tell you all about why you shouldn't go to college just yet. But before we do any of that, there's one important stop that I definitely need to make. This is basically like British Starbucks, or what Starbucks wishes it could be. And I'm super excited because now I got a punch card and I get to have a free coffee. So I got my coffee, which is delicious, but I'm kind of upset because I forgot that I need to get changed, so I couldn't use my stupid free coffee thing. Damn it! I love free stuff. Anyway, TiAna, here's something I know that you've never seen before. It's called reliable public transport, and it doesn't exist in the United States. So we've arrived at the university, which is where my first errand is going to be. I have to go to office hours. That's something that undergraduates have never heard of. It's where you can actually go and speak to your professor if you want more information about the class or anything. It's a pretty good program, but nobody knows what the hell it is. Also, as you can see, just like everything else, I have to go up a massive hill and a bunch of stairs just to do that. And then once you reach the top of the hill, just like everything else in this country, you're greeted with an awesome view. You can see a bit of the lake like right there, and that little thing's the Wallace National Monument, which if you saw the first video I made for my friend Josh, I went up there. This campus is just gorgeous. It sits on about 300 acres. The building I'm standing at right now is one of the first buildings that was actually built. The University of Stirling was opened in 1968, and the only reason that's important is because it's the first university that was established in Scotland in almost 500 years, since 1582 when the University of Edinburgh was opened. But enough about that, I gotta go inside and talk to my professor because I'm really worried about my first essay. The essays here are way different. This one's gonna be worth about 50% of my grade, so, you know, it's kind of important. Which does bring me to why I'm talking to you in the first place. You should not join college until you're ready. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people join up with college because they think that's what they're supposed to do. There's this huge pressure, especially in the United States, but globally, as I can tell from just being here, that you're supposed to go to college, that it's something that you're supposed to do. And maybe I'm being a shitty big brother by giving you advice that you should not go to college. But the truth of the matter is, don't go if you're not going to get something out of it. Maybe it's because of my age, but I really doubt that. I think there's a big difference between growing up and growing older. So maybe it's just because of my maturity, but there's something to be said about actually giving a shit when you go to class. Just last week, for the very class that I'm going to be speaking to my professor about in order to get a little bit of insight into how I should write my first essay, we had a seminar and it was quite obvious that nobody had even read the poems that we were supposed to read for the class. And it is true that sometimes I put in a little more effort than is necessary for an undergrad, but these people didn't even know the name of the specific characters that were inside of the poems that we were supposed to read. It's quite obvious the character was named a certain thing and people just got it wrong. They didn't even take the time to Google or to read the little blips that show up under the links when you Google something. And because no one read, we had a really crappy conversation wherein very little actual analysis of the poems we were supposed to be analyzing actually happened. Also, just so you know, this little office here is where Lex is getting her master's. The guy's name is Liam Bell. He's a published author and he's heading up the creative writing program right now. Also, I've reached my destination, so I'm gonna talk to her. Alright, that went way better than I expected. I actually got a lot of really good advice and I'm feeling way better about my essay. Like I said, it's worth a lot of points, so I'm kind of worried about it. And again, I'm probably putting too much effort into this, more effort than needs to be put into an undergraduate sort of degree, but at the end of the day, I'm paying a lot of money for my education, and I want to get the most out of it. That's the problem with a lot of people, especially in the liberal arts programs. Because they think they're supposed to go to college, they end up getting a degree that they don't care about. 4 years later, they don't know what the hell they're going to do with it. So you have this plethora of people with English and philosophy degrees that are unemployable or end up working at Starbucks or McDonald's or Cafe Nero, which explains why so many people think that there's no use in getting a degree like that. And to some extent, they're right. I would agree that those are useless degrees, but the only reason they're useless is because they made the degree useless by not caring about the degree itself. It's not the subject matter, it's them. But enough of that for now, because I've reached the Airthrey Lock, which is the lock in the middle of the Stirling campus. This is a man-made lock that was built in the 1700s. There's actually a castle up the way that I'm going to take you to in just a minute. It was also built in the 1700s, and again, there's the Wallace National Monument. It's just, this whole place is just gorgeous all the time. The campus is also home of the Scottish National Institute of Sport, and the reason that the University of Stirling was chosen for this is because it's one of very few schools in all of the UK that have 5-star sporting facilities, including what I'm standing on now, which, as you can see from the little flags there, is a 9-hole golf course that's on our campus. And the golf course actually sits right underneath the Airthrey Castle, which, as I said, was built in the 1700s, but as you can tell from the bay windows there, this was actually redecorated in the 1890s during the Victorian period, much like a lot of Stirling and the surrounding area, including the neighborhood that I live in, which you saw earlier in the video. The castle's now home to the University School of Law, but as you can see just from entering into the front entryway, it definitely hasn't lost its charm. Also, I just got kicked out because apparently I'm not supposed to be filming inside without permission from the university, but we don't need to tell anybody that. Here's a quick look around inside, so enjoy this. There we go. I don't think I got any students in that shot, which seemed to be the major thing that they were worried about. Anyway, so besides being absolutely gorgeous, the campus is steeped in history as well. For example, in 1488, King James III, King of Scotland, lost his life here while trying to put down a rebellion of a bunch of barons that were going up against him at the time. And there are written references going back to this space all the way to 890 AD. There's also a lot of services for students on campus. There's a medical center there. That's where I got diagnosed with pneumonia, which is getting better, by the way, along with the residence halls, and there's bunch of those, which come in really handy because a massive population here at Stirling is actually international students. 20% of all the students that go here are from overseas. And I'll be the first to admit that although the architecture isn't exactly gorgeous, I mean, at least it's there for people. And it includes things like restaurants and laundry services, which actually reminds me of a funny story. When Lex and I first came to Scotland, they turned these into hotels when they're not in use during the semester, and so we were staying here. In order to use the laundry services, you have to buy this little card, and you have to fill it up online, and I wanted to know how to use the card, and there's a pin and all sorts of, it doesn't matter. So I go to the website and I find a little video that explains how to use Circuit Laundry Service, and I click play, and the video proceeds to tell me how to do laundry. Like, it's explaining, put your soap in here, and then put your clothes in here, and then you gotta dry them afterwards, and don't mix whites and darks together. Which, don't get me wrong, is sound advice, but I needed to know how to put money on the card. Which brings me back to my original point. TiAna, a lot of these kids are 17, 18 years old, and I know you just turned 19, I'm not insulting the age, but a lot of them haven't lived outside of home. They've spent their entire lives just living with mum, and because of that, they don't even know how to do laundry. But we as a society are pushing them to go into college and make a decision that's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. In the United States, this is a little bit worse because, we have to pay for our college, so people end up going into massive student debt because of this. But it's still a problem here, and those problems apply in the United States as well. I'm also now taking you across the bridge from the residence halls to a couple other main buildings on campus. And I just wanted to give you a good view of the lake there. You can see some of the swans hanging out. There's a lot of wildlife here. While Lex and I were just walking around campus one day, we saw a deer. There's squirrels, rabbits everywhere, all that sort of good stuff. It's awesome. I'm going to avoid walking inside for fear of being yelled at again. But yeah, the reason it's a problem to push these decisions on people so young doesn't have to do with the fact that they're paying so much out of pocket here in Scotland, at least. It more has to do with the fact that they're wasting everybody's time. They're wasting their own time, they're wasting my time, they're wasting the teacher's time, and the best case scenario is they end up leaving with a degree that they don't know what to do with, which then devalues degrees in general. So now a bachelor's in English is useless because so many people have it, because so many people just go to school like, hey, I'm going to read some books, and then I'm going to get a piece of paper that says I can read books. So for people like me who actually care about English and want to do something good with it, that want to teach, that want to write and change society based on the things that I'm writing, suddenly I'm an idiot because I decided to get an English degree. Moreover, my education itself is affected by this because now these people are in my classes, and I'm not gaining as much as I could because instead of focusing on the analysis of what Robert Barrett Browning was trying to get at in his poem, instead we're talking about whether it was Jesus or Lazarus that Karshisha ran into. Spoiler alert, it's Lazarus. It says so in the poem. And that doesn't help my education. It doesn't help further my pursuit, which is to be able to think more complexly about works of literature that have been produced over time, because that literature can help to expand who we are as individuals. And if I expand as an individual, then that means that it's going to be easier for me to help my students expand as individuals. But instead, we talked about Jesus versus Lazarus, and now all of my students are going to suck. Also, we're passing some of the sports centers now, and as you can see, this one right here says it's the National Swimming Academy. And as I said, the University of Stirling is home to the Scottish National Institute of Sport, which means it's also home to where everybody's training right now for the Commonwealth Games, so just kind of like the Olympics, but just for the UK. So apparently there's like celebrity athletes walking around campus right now. Also, it's totally time to go home because I know that you can't tell right now, but it's actually been raining the entire time I'm making this video. And because I've been walking around on grass, my shoes are soaked through. And that's actually one of the weird differences that I didn't expect. As I was coming here, everybody's like, oh, you're going to Scotland? Or you know it's gonna be cold? Do you think you'll be able to hear their accents? Oh, but it rains in Scotland. All that sort of stuff. But the rain thing actually has surprised me because it doesn't actually rain here like it does in Albuquerque with huge downpours that soak everything. It's more of like a fine mist, like a drizzle that just happens all the time. It's the sort of thing that you don't actually notice, but it kind of like bugs you. It's like fluorescent lighting, how it just kind of has that buzz that you don't really notice, but soon if you just stay in it for too long, you'll slowly go insane. All right, efficient public transport. When are you gonna be here for me? Right on time. God, I love it. Also, just look how clean and nice it is. I feel like I'm on a starship. People probably think I'm crazy because I'm talking to my phone on a bus, but people are friendly here, so I think I can get away with it. Do you guys think I'm crazy for talking to my phone?
No, I talked to my phone all the time too.
Thanks. Anyway, they turned out to be pretty nice, actually. I think they were just being friendly to me, though, because immediately after that, it took them a while to warm up and start talking to me again. Now, don't get me wrong, TiAna, I'm not telling you that you shouldn't get a college education. Far from it. I can't even begin to explain to you the innumerable ways that my life has gotten vastly better since I decided to pursue higher education. I've been able to think of myself and my life in ways I never imagined before. I've gained a new appreciation of arts and science, engineering, and all sorts of other stuff that simply hadn't crossed my mind. So yes, you should definitely get a college education because it's invaluable. But you shouldn't do that until you're ready. Otherwise, you're wasting everybody's time, your own included. I mean, I don't even know why we look down upon people that choose not to go to college directly out of high school anyway. It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, I can't imagine what would have happened if I went to college directly out of high school. I was an idiot back then. Well, I mean, I'm still an idiot, but I'm at least a mature idiot. It's like all these kids that don't know how to do their laundry. They have this thing here that's called Freshers Week. It's the first week back to school, and it's all about the freshers. Bars and clubs and restaurants all have specials on drinks, of course. And remember, for a lot of these kids, this is their first time being alone and free, away from their parents. It's kind of like Rumspringa is for the Amish. The little kids just go nuts. This one time, I was waiting for a bus after my morning class to come back home, and the bus stopped on the other side of the street, and everybody's kind of like unloading to go to class in the morning. It's like 10 a.m., and this chick runs off the bus and proceeds to start vomiting violently all over the street. And the dude that I was sitting next to at the bus stop across the street looks over at me and he says, "Our morning could be a lot worse." And the thing is, I'm too old. I couldn't do that even if I wanted to. Stay out all night with my friends and then go to class bright and early the next morning. I can barely walk down the street without getting winded. Which is why I honestly think the best thing that I did as far as my college career goes was wait until I was 25 before I even attempted to start anything. Because now, not only do I have the maturity to handle these sort of concepts, but I actually care about them. I see the intrinsic value in these classes, and I actually want to expand my mind. And after all, that's the point of college in the first place. It's to become a better person, to learn more, to dig deep into your soul, to pay your dues writing essays for 4 years, and then come out on the other side a better person. Oh, so I just got home and I had food and I feel so much better. I should probably do that more often. You know, the whole eating thing. Also, now that I got home, there's somebody else that wants to say hi to you.
Hi! So your brother's right. Don't go to school unless you're gonna appreciate it.
She's smart.
Clever.
Oh, and that's our cat.
Oh yeah, meet Kayla!
We had to adopt her because we can't have a real cat in our house.
She works pretty well. She's kind of lazy.
So yeah, I hope you liked my little letter for you here, and I hope you're having a great time back home. I love you, TiAna, and I'll see you soon. And don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of good stuff. Tell everybody you know to do the same. In fact, print out a piece of paper, a bunch of leaflets with a link, or not, it couldn't be a link, because then you'd have to click it, with my web address to my YouTube channel there, and then just drop them from Zeppelins all over the United States. That would be the best thing that you could do. If you could just get that done for me, that'd be awesome. And I'm sorry I don't have any good puns for you this video. Next time. Well, hey there, Mr. Statue Guy. Why so blue?